It's just one night with my CEO, she said. Okay, I replied. She smiled, thinking I was weak. I smiled, knowing I'd already made the first call. 3 days later, her fantasy became a $400 million corporate disaster. Her CEO screamed one question. Who is your husband? My name is Warren Blake. I'm 45 years old, and I've spent the last decade building a career as a compliance consultant. It's not glamorous work. Most people's eyes glaze over when I explain what I do. I help companies follow the rules, make sure their mergers don't violate regulations, ensure their paperwork is clean. Boring stuff. Safe stuff. The kind of work that keeps you in the background while other people make headlines. That's exactly how I liked it. My wife Bridget never really understood what I did. She knew I worked with legal documents and corporate structures, but the details didn't interest her. As long as the mortgage was paid and her Range Rover had gas, she was content. She worked as VP of Strategic Partnerships at Cortex Solutions, a growing fintech startup in Denver. She was good at her job too. Confident, ambitious, the kind of woman who walked into a room and owned it. We met 11 years ago, shortly after her divorce. She had 2 kids from her first marriage. Harper was 6 then, Logan was just 2. Their biological father took off to California and barely sent child support. I stepped in, became the dad they needed, coached Logan's little league team, helped Harper with her algebra homework, taught them both how to ride bikes in the park near our house. I thought we had something real. Then came that dinner at Maggiano's. Tuesday night, mid-September. She ordered the salmon, I got the ribeye. We were halfway through the bottle of Chardonnay when she set down her fork and looked at me with this strange expression. Not guilt, not nervousness. Something closer to excitement. Warren, I need to talk to you about something, Bridget said, her voice steady. I wiped my mouth with a napkin and waited. There's this opportunity that's come up, she continued, swirling her wine. Something I've been thinking about for a while now. Okay, I replied, still not seeing where this was headed. She leaned forward slightly, her eyes bright. You know Preston Knight, my CEO? I nodded. I met him twice at company events. Tall guy, silver hair, expensive suits. The kind of executive who spoke in sound bites and firm handshakes. He's interested in me, she said simply. And I'm interested in him. It's just physical, Warren. Just one night. He's been my fantasy for years, and he finally made it clear he feels the same way. The restaurant noise faded into white static. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, the laugh, something to indicate this was a joke. It's just one night with my CEO, she pressed on. He's my fantasy. I'm not asking for a divorce or anything dramatic. Just one night to get it out of my system. I set my fork down carefully. My hands were steady. My voice was calm when I spoke. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay. Yes. Okay. That wasn't the reaction she expected. She wanted drama, an argument, maybe even permission to play the victim when I exploded. But I gave her nothing. Just that one word. We finished dinner in near silence. She kept glancing at me, tried to read my face. I ate my steak methodically, drank my water, asked the waiter for the check. On the drive home, she tried again. You're really okay with this? You've made your decision. I replied evenly, my eyes on the road. What else is there to say? She didn't know that I'd already started making calls before we even left the parking lot. The first one went to an old colleague who specialized in corporate investigations. The second went to my offshore account manager. Bridget thought my silence was weakness. She had no idea it was preparation. I woke up at 5:30, same as always. Bridget was still asleep, turned away from me under the covers. I showered, shaved, put on my usual gray suit and blue tie. Everything routine, everything normal. That was the key. Let her think nothing had changed. By 6:15, I was in my home office with the door closed. My contact, Dennis, had already sent 3 emails overnight. He worked fast, which was why I kept him on retainer for situations like this. Not that I'd ever imagined using him for something this personal. The first email contained preliminary corporate filings for Cortex Solutions and their pending merger with Sterling Financial Group. The deal was worth roughly $400 million and had been in the works for 8 months. Bridget had mentioned it casually over the past few months, proud of her role in the negotiations. The second email was more interesting. Dennis had pulled the board composition for both companies, along with their disclosure requirements. There it was, buried in the compliance documents, Any personal relationship between executive leadership during merger negotiations had to be reported to the board within 10 business days. Bridget hadn't reported anything. Neither had Preston Knight. That was their first mistake. The third email contained something I hadn't asked for, but appreciated anyway. Dennis had done a background sweep on Preston Knight. Married for 26 years, 3 grown children, member of 2 country clubs, sitting board member for a local charity. The kind of man who built his reputation on family values and ethical leadership. The kind of man who had everything to lose. I printed the documents, filed them in a locked drawer, and deleted the emails. By 7 o'clock, I was drinking coffee in the kitchen when Harper came downstairs, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Morning, Dad," she said, grabbing a granola bar from the pantry. "Morning, sweetheart. Ready for that chemistry test?" Harper made a face. "As ready as I'll ever be. You're still picking me up after soccer practice, right?" "Wouldn't miss it," I assured her. She smiled, gave me a quick hug, and headed out the door. Logan appeared a few minutes later, still half asleep, his hair sticking up in 3 different directions. "Why do mornings exist?" he grumbled, pouring himself cereal. "One of life's great mysteries," I replied, ruffling his hair. Bridget finally emerged around 7:30, wearing her power suit and heels. She moved through the kitchen with practiced efficiency, pouring coffee into her travel mug. "I've got an early meeting," she announced, not quite looking at me. "Have a good day," I said evenly. She hesitated at the door, turned back. "Warren, about last night. You said what you needed to say." I interrupted gently. "No need to revisit it." Relief washed over her face. She nodded, grabbed her keys, and left. I waited until her car pulled out of the driveway. Then I made another call, this one to a corporate attorney I'd worked with on 3 previous cases. We had an appointment scheduled for tomorrow morning. Bridget thought she was in control of the situation. She was about to learn otherwise. 3 days later, everything changed. I was in my office downtown, reviewing compliance documents for a pharmaceutical client, when my phone buzzed with a text from Harper. "Dad, Mom's freaking out. She won't stop crying. What's going on?" I checked the time. 9:40 in the morning. Bridget should have been at work. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Bridget's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering, keeping my voice neutral. "Warren," I said simply. Her voice came through broken, panicked. "Warren, I need you to come home. Right now. Please." "What happened?" I asked, though I had a pretty good idea. "Just come home," she repeated, her voice shaking. "Please." I told her I'd be there in 20 minutes, then gathered my things with deliberate slowness. No need to rush. Whatever was happening had already happened. When I walked through the front door, I found Bridget sitting on the living room couch, her phone clutched in both hands. Her makeup was smeared, eyes red and swollen. She looked up when she heard me, and the desperation on her face was almost enough to make me feel something. Almost. "What's wrong?" I asked, setting my briefcase down. "Preston called me this morning," Bridget said, her voice trembling. "He was screaming, Warren. Absolutely screaming." I sat down in the chair across from her, waited. "The merger's dead," she continued, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "The Sterling deal is completely dead. The board called an emergency meeting last night. They found out about us." "Found out what exactly?" I asked calmly. "That Preston and I were involved. That we'd been seeing each other. They said it was a conflict of interest, that we should have disclosed it months ago." She wiped her face with shaking hands. "Preston called me screaming. He kept asking, 'Who is your husband? Who the hell is your husband?'" I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "Why would he ask that?" "I don't know." Bridget's voice rose to near hysteria. "He just kept screaming it. Then he hung up. I've tried calling him back 15 times. He won't answer." "And the merger?" I prompted. "Gone. Completely gone. Sterling's board pulled out this morning. They're citing undisclosed conflicts and breach of fiduciary duty." Her hand was shaking so badly, she could barely hold her phone. "Warren, they're talking about firing Preston. And HR called me an hour ago. They want to see me tomorrow morning. They used the words administrative leave." I nodded slowly, processing this information I already knew. My contact at Sterling Financial had confirmed the board vote last night. The anonymous tip about Preston and Bridget's relationship had come from an untraceable email address. "Mine. How did they find out?" Bridget asked, her eyes searching mine desperately. I met her gaze steadily. That's an excellent question. The HR meeting happened exactly as I predicted. Bridget came home that afternoon, looking like she'd aged 10 years in 6 hours. They put me on administrative leave, she announced, standing in the doorway of my office, pending an internal investigation into undisclosed conflicts of interest. I looked up from my laptop. Did they say how long? Indefinitely. Her voice was hollow. They took my badge, my laptop, my phone. Made me hand everything over like I was some kind of criminal. Standard procedure, I observed. Standard procedure? Bridget's voice sharpened. Warren, my career is falling apart, and you're talking about standard procedure? I closed my laptop, gave her my full attention. What would you like me to do about it? I don't know. Show some emotion. Maybe? Act like you care that your wife's life is imploding. You made a choice, I said evenly. These are the consequences of that choice. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. You knew this would happen. I suspected it might, I admitted. Ow, her eyes narrowed. How could you possibly know? I stood up, walked to my filing cabinet, and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of the merger documents, the compliance requirements, the board member contact information. I'd had them for days. Because I read the documents, I said simply, the ones you should have read before you decided to sleep with your CEO during an active merger negotiation. Bridget's face went white. You reported us. I didn't report anything. I replied truthfully. I simply made sure the right information reached the right people. There's a difference. You destroyed my career on purpose. Her voice was barely a whisper. No, Bridget. You destroyed your career when you violated your company's ethics policies. I just documented it. I returned the folder to the cabinet. You wanted one night with Preston Knight. I gave you permission, but I never said there wouldn't be consequences. She stumbled backward, gripping the doorframe for support. Who are you? I'm the man you've been married to for 11 years. I answered. The one you never bothered to really know. Harper appeared at the top of the stairs then, her face confused and worried. Dad? Mom? What's going on? Why is everyone yelling? I looked at my daughter, then back at Bridget. Why don't you explain it to her? I suggested quietly. Tell Harper why you're not working anymore. Tell her about your fantasy. Bridget's face went from white to crimson. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and fled to our bedroom. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Harper looked at me, tears forming in her eyes. Dad, what's happening? I climbed the stairs slowly, put my arm around her shoulders. It's complicated, sweetheart. Your mom and I are going through some things. But you and Logan are going to be fine. I promise you that. Are you getting divorced? I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I'd already contacted a divorce attorney. The paperwork was being prepared, but Harper didn't need to know that yet. Let's take this one day at a time, I said instead. Right now, I need you to be strong. Can you do that? She nodded against my shoulder, and I held her there for a long moment, feeling the weight of what I'd set in motion. This was just the beginning. Dennis called me 2 days after Bridget's suspension. I was at my desk when his name flashed on my screen. Got something you need to see, he said without preamble. Can you meet me at Bradley's in an hour? Bradley's was a quiet bar downtown, the kind of place where businessmen had conversations they didn't want overheard. I arrived to find Dennis already in a corner booth, a thick manila envelope on the table in front of him. You asked me to dig deeper on Preston Knight, Dennis began, sliding the envelope toward me. I found more than expected. I opened it carefully. Inside were photographs, bank statements, hotel receipts. Lots of receipts. Bridget wasn't the first, Dennis explained, keeping his voice low. Knight's had at least 3 other affairs with employees over the past 6 years. All kept quiet, all swept under the rug. I studied the documents, my jaw tightening. Does Sterling Financial know about this? They do now, Dennis replied with a slight smile. Anonymous tip, of course. Sent this morning. I looked up at him. You didn't need to do that. Call it professional courtesy, he shrugged. Guy like Knight doesn't deserve to land on his feet after this. The photographs showed Preston with different women at various hotels. The bank statements revealed payments to one of them, likely hush money. The pattern was clear, methodical, predatory. There's more, Dennis continued. Knight's wife filed for divorce yesterday. Her attorney is going for everything. House, retirement accounts, the vacation property in Aspen. She's not playing around. Good for her, I muttered. Your wife tried calling Knight 67 times in the past 3 days, Dennis added. He's blocked her number. His attorney sent her a cease and desist this morning. I nodded slowly, absorbing this information. Bridget had become a liability to Preston, someone who could expose him further. Of course, he'd cut her off completely. What about Bridget's job? I asked. Dennis's expression darkened. Cortex Board is meeting next week to discuss her termination. It's essentially a formality at this point. They're building a case for dismissal without severance. Because of the undisclosed relationship. Exactly. She violated company policy during active merger negotiations. That's grounds for immediate termination under her employment contract. I closed the envelope, slid it into my briefcase. Send me your invoice. Already did, Dennis said. Warren, I've known you for 15 years. I've never seen you like this. Like what? Cold. Calculating. Normally you're the mediator, the guy who finds middle ground. He studied my face. This is different. She asked me to accept her infidelity. I said quietly. She wanted me to smile and pretend it didn't matter. Instead, I chose consequences. Dennis nodded slowly. Fair enough. What's next? Divorce attorney, I replied. I have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I want full custody of Harper and Logan. Think you'll get it. Bridget destroyed her career through ethical violations and an extramarital affair. I'm the stable parent, the one who's been raising her kids for 11 years. I met his eyes. Yes, I'll get it. We shook hands and I left, driving home with the envelope burning a hole in my briefcase. When I arrived, Harper was sitting on the front porch steps, her arms wrapped around her knees. Dad, can we talk? She asked quietly. I sat down beside her. Of course, sweetheart. Mom won't come out of her room, Harper said, her voice small. She's been crying for 2 days straight. Logan keeps asking me what's wrong, and I don't know what to tell him. I put my arm around her shoulders. Tell him the truth. His mom made some mistakes, and now she's dealing with the consequences. Harper looked at me, her eyes too old for 17. Did she cheat on you? The direct question caught me off guard, but I'd promised myself no more lies. Yes, I said simply. Harper nodded, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. I heard you arguing. I heard her say something about Preston Knight. She wiped her face angrily. How could she do that to you? After everything you've done for us. People make choices, I said carefully. Sometimes those choices hurt the people who love them. I'm so angry at her, Harper whispered. I know, I replied. So am I. The divorce papers arrived at the house on a Thursday afternoon. I'd had them delivered directly. No courtesy warning. Bridget opened the door to find a process server holding a clipboard. I watched from my office window as she signed for the envelope, her hands shaking. She stood on the porch for a long moment, just staring at it, before finally coming back inside. She found me in my office, the envelope clutched in her white-knuckled grip. Divorce papers? Her voice was hoarse from days of crying. You're actually doing this? Yes, I said without looking up from my computer. Just like that. No conversation. No attempt to work through this. I finally met her eyes. You worked through it with Preston Knight. I'm just finishing what you started. Warren, please. Bridget's voice broke. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can... Read page 7. I interrupted. She opened the envelope with trembling fingers, flipped through the pages. Her face went pale as she read the custody arrangement. Full custody, she whispered. You're asking for full custody of Harper and Logan. Yes. You can't do that. They're my children. They're your children from your first marriage. I corrected. I've been their father for 11 years. I'm the one who raised them while you focused on your career. I'm the stable parent. The court will see that. This is cruel, Bridget said, her voice rising. You're punishing me by taking my kids. I'm protecting them. I replied firmly. You destroyed our family's stability. You lost your job through ethical violations. You had an affair with your married boss. Do you really think a judge will see you as the better option? She stumbled backward, catching herself on the doorframe. I never thought you could be this cold. You never really thought about me at all, I observed. That was always the problem. Harper appeared at the top of the stairs then, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She'd obviously heard everything. Dad's right, Mom, Harper said quietly. Bridget spun around, hope flashing across her face. Harper, honey, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Harper cut her off. Her voice was calm but firm, so much like mine it was almost eerie. You cheated on Dad. You ruined your career. Now you're losing everything. She paused. And honestly, you deserve it. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Bridget's face collapsed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Harper, please, Bridget begged. Don't take a side. I'm your mother. You stopped acting like my mother when you decided your fantasy was more important than our family, Harper replied. She walked down the stairs past Bridget without another glance. Dad, I'm ready to go. Soccer practice starts in 20 minutes. I stood up, grabbed my keys. Let's go. As we left, I could hear Bridget sobbing in the hallway. Logan came out of his room, confused and frightened. Mom, what's wrong? He asked. I hesitated at the door, looked back. Logan was only 13, too young to fully understand what was happening. But he needed to know eventually. Come on, Logan, I called to him. You're coming with us. He looked between me and his crying mother, then made his choice. He grabbed his jacket and followed Harper and me out the door. In the rearview mirror, I saw Bridget standing in the doorway, watching us drive away. Alone, exactly as she deserved to be. Bridget's first mistake after the divorce papers was trying to rally support. She called her parents, her sister, her few remaining friends. One by one, they turned away. Her father called me 2 days later. Warren, it's Gerald, he said, his voice tight. I need to speak with you. I met him at a diner near his house. He looked older than I remembered, lines deeper around his eyes. I lost $38,000 in that Cortec merger, Gerald said without preamble. Retirement stock. Gone. I nodded slowly. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? He studied my face. Because Bridget says you're the one who destroyed the deal. I reported ethics violations to the appropriate parties. I replied calmly. What happened after that was out of my control. Gerald leaned back, exhaled slowly. She told me what she asked you. About Preston Knight. Did she tell you? I said yes. His eyebrows rose. You agreed to it. I gave her permission. I clarified. I didn't say there wouldn't be consequences. A long silence stretched between us. Finally, Gerald shook his head. I can't support her in this, Warren. What she did was wrong. Stupid. He rubbed his face. My wife wants me to take her side because she's our daughter. But I can't do it. I understand, I said. Those kids, Gerald continued. Harper and Logan. You've been more of a father to them than their biological dad ever was. They should stay with you. Thank you. I replied quietly. But Warren, his voice hardened slightly. You could have just divorced her. You didn't have to burn her whole life down. I met his eyes directly. Yes, I did. She needed to understand that actions have consequences. Real ones. Gerald stood up, left money on the table for his coffee. Maybe you're right. Maybe she did. He paused at the door. But the man I used to know wouldn't have been this cold. The man you used to know didn't have his wife ask permission to cheat on him, I replied. He left without another word. 3 days later, Bridget showed up at Harper's soccer game. I saw her standing by the fence, trying to catch Harper's attention. Harper deliberately ignored her, focused on the field. After the game, Bridget approached us in the parking lot. Harper, sweetheart, can we talk? Bridget pleaded. Harper loaded her gear bag into my truck without responding. Harper, please. I'm still your mother. You stopped being my mother when you put yourself first, Harper said coldly. She climbed into the truck. Dad, can we go? I nodded, started the engine. Bridget stood there in the parking lot, alone, watching us drive away. She'd become a ghost in her own family. Present but invisible. Speaking but unheard. Exactly as I planned. The final court hearing was set for a Wednesday morning in November. I arrived early with my attorney, Rebecca Sterling. She was sharp, thorough, and had a reputation for winning custody cases. Bridget showed up with a court-appointed attorney. She couldn't afford private representation anymore. The judge, a stern woman named Patricia Holmes, reviewed the case files for 10 minutes before speaking. This is a custody hearing for Harper Blake, age 17, and Logan Blake, age 13, Judge Holmes began. Both children from Mrs. Blake's previous marriage. Mr. Warren Blake seeks full custody. Rebecca stood. Your Honor, Mr. Blake has been the primary caregiver for these children for 11 years. He has maintained stable employment, stable housing, and has been present for all major life events. Meanwhile, Mrs. Blake lost her employment due to ethical violations and engaged in an extramarital affair during her marriage. Bridget's attorney tried to object, but the judge waved him off. I've read the testimony from Harper Blake. Judge Holmes continued. She's expressed a clear preference to live with Mr. Blake. At 17, her opinion carries significant weight. Your Honor, she's been influenced. Bridget's attorney started. She's been truthful. The judge interrupted. I've also reviewed the school records, medical records, and character statements. Mr. Blake has been the consistent parent throughout these children's lives. I sat quietly, hands folded, watching the proceedings unfold exactly as Rebecca had predicted. Logan Blake is younger, Judge Holmes continued, but his therapist's report indicates he feels more secure with Mr. Blake. The pattern is clear. Bridget was crying silently, her shoulders shaking. Therefore, I'm granting primary custody of both children to Warren Blake, the judge declared. Mrs. Blake will have supervised visitation every other weekend, pending review in 6 months. The gavel came down. Just like that, it was over. Bridget collapsed in her chair, her attorney trying to console her. I stood, shook Rebecca's hand, and walked out of the courtroom. Harper and Logan were waiting in the hallway with my sister. Well, Harper asked anxiously. You're staying with me, I said simply. She threw her arms around me, and Logan joined the embrace. Behind us, I heard Bridget's wailing echo down the courthouse hallway. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret, no guilt. Just the quiet certainty that justice had been served. Preston Knight's fall was spectacular and public. The news broke 3 weeks after the custody hearing. His wife's divorce attorney had leaked documents to the press, evidence of multiple affairs, misuse of company funds, harassment settlements paid with corporate money. Cortex board terminated him without severance. Sterling Financial sued him personally for breach of contract. His country club membership was revoked. 3 charities removed him from their boards. The man who'd been Bridget's fantasy became a cautionary tale. I was reading about it on my laptop when Harper came into my office. Dad, Mom's outside, she said quietly. She wants to talk to you. I looked out the window. Bridget sat in her car, an older Honda Civic I didn't recognize. The Range Rover was long gone, repossessed when she couldn't make payments. Tell her I'll be out in 5 minutes, I said. Harper hesitated. Dad, she looks bad. Really bad. I closed my laptop and went outside. Bridget had aged years and months. Her hair was graying, pulled back in a messy ponytail. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by a simple sweater and jeans. She looked small, diminished. Warren, she said as I approached. Thank you for seeing me. What do you want, Bridget? I found a job, she said. Administrative assistant at a small law firm. It's not much, but it's something. She paused. I'm moving to Colorado Springs. Starting over. Good for you. I replied neutrally. I wanted to ask about seeing the kids, Bridget continued. My supervised visits. I know I only get every other weekend, but maybe we could arrange something more flexible. That's between you and your children, I said. If they want to see you, I won't stop them, but I won't force them either. Her face crumpled slightly. Harper won't return my calls. Logan blocked my number. Can you blame them? No, she whispered. I can't. She looked at me then, really looked at me. I'm sorry, Warren. For everything. For what I asked, for what I did. I threw away something real for something that was never real at all. Yes, you did, I agreed. Do you think they'll ever forgive me? Maybe, I said honestly. But that's not my decision to make. You destroyed their trust. You'll have to rebuild it yourself. If you even can. Bridget nodded, wiping her eyes. I deserve that. Yes, you do. She started to get back in her car, then stopped. For what it's worth, you were a better father to them than I was a mother. They're lucky to have you. I didn't respond. She drove away slowly, and I watched until her car disappeared around the corner. Harper joined me on the porch. Is she really leaving? Looks like it, I confirmed. Good, Harper said firmly. Then, more quietly, do you think I should call her? Eventually, I put my arm around her shoulders. That's your choice, sweetheart. Nobody else's. She nodded, leaning against me. Thanks, Dad. For what? For protecting us, Harper said simply. 10 months later, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Harper graduated high school with honors. I sat in the audience, watching her accept her diploma, feeling pride swell in my chest. Bridget wasn't there. Harper had invited her, but she declined, said it would be too awkward. Logan made the varsity baseball team as a freshman. I coached his games from the stands, yelling encouragement when he struck out a batter, groaning when he missed a catch. We'd become a tight unit, the three of us. Movie nights on Fridays, breakfast together on Sundays, homework at the kitchen table. Simple routines that meant everything. I'd also started seeing someone. Her name was Claire, a teacher at Logan's school. We'd met at a parent-teacher conference. She was kind, patient, genuinely interested in my work. The opposite of Bridget in every way. Harper approved. She's good for you, Dad. You smile more. I smile plenty, I protested. No, you don't, Logan chimed in. You're like a robot most of the time. But with Claire, you're actually human. I laughed, ruffled his hair. Thanks for that. One evening, as I was putting away dishes, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw Harper's graduation photos on Facebook. She looks beautiful. I'm proud of her. Tell her that for me. I recognized Bridget's new number. I'd blocked her old one at Harper's request. I showed the message to Harper. She read it. Her expression unreadable. What do you want to do? I asked. Harper took a deep breath. Tell her thank you. And tell her maybe we can talk. Eventually. But not yet. I sent the message. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Then, thank you. I understand. I'll wait. Harper handed my phone back. I'm not ready to forgive her. You don't have to be, I assured her. But maybe someday, she added quietly. Maybe, I agreed. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat on the back porch with a beer, looking up at the stars. 11 months ago, my wife had asked me for permission to destroy our marriage. I'd said yes. And then I'd made sure she understood what yes really meant. Some people would call what I did cruel. Cold. Calculated revenge. I called it justice. Bridget had wanted one night with her fantasy. She got it. And she lost everything else in the process. Meanwhile, I had my kids, my career, my integrity, and a future with someone who actually valued me. I'd won. Completely. Totally. Absolutely. And I'd sleep just fine tonight.